Special good morning to our listeners via Classic Radio. Good morning and welcome. Whether you're listening to 105.5 or 105.9, good morning. Those of you viewing GBN TV, whether it's channel 7, channel 11, or channels 20, good morning and welcome also. And those of you via social media platform, we were having some issues with our Facebook for viewers and listeners via the Facebook page. If it's up, well, all well and good. But I know for our YouTube channels, that is up and running. So if the Facebook is up, I wasn't told if it's up and running, well, all good, well and good. Let me say good morning and welcome once again. It's Wednesday, the 23rd of August. It's To The Point. I'm your host, GT, and with me this morning I have my guests, and welcome back to the Honorable MP, Mr. Ron Redhead. Good morning to you, sir. How you doing? How you doing?
Well, I'm doing rested coming from Carnival season. I'm good.
I like to hear you say that. Rested coming from Carnival. Yes, not everyone can say that. Eh?
Definitely.
Not everyone. There are some out there who may not have been in good health, can attend the activities and
True.
Carnival 2023 just wrapped up. But before we get into the carnival, hey, our athletes out there, you being the minister of sports, youth, and so forth. Our athletes out there in Budapest. How you feel?
Let me just continue to shout out to each and every one of them, the entire team, but in particular to mention Kirani and to mention Anderson, who both have advanced to their finals of their events. We wish them all the very best, and no matter what they place, we are always eternally grateful to have them representing not just themselves, but the island Grenada, Karakupiti Matni. So we are eternally grateful for their contributions towards the world of sports, and may they do the best that they can, and certainly that best is sufficient for Grenada.
I certainly agree with you on that. Despite whatever position that they will come through, the love that we have will certainly flow out to them. Definitely. And them feeling that love, you never know what that could cause. I keeping on that trend in terms of our athletes out there, in terms of the performance and stuff that they will be tomorrow and so forth. Tell me, what has been done about the development of more Karanis, Minister? More Anderson Peters. Where are we with the national sports policy and so forth? Let's get into that kind of conversation this morning.
Certainly. Well, we're almost complete. And when I say complete, 100% complete in terms of its final rollout. We are in the phase of constructing the parish councils. They are being renovated and retrofitted. St. Mark, Karaku, St. John, some other areas as well. So once that is completed, we are certain in time for budget. The nation will hear the final update, and then we'll move into the phase of the election, which is going to be parish councils, and eventually which will feed into the national council. We held only recently the workshop on the financial aspect of the sports, so it is to bring it in line with what we expect to be, or the situation to be, under the national sports policy. And once that is done, we are satisfied that we are going to be in a position. There are minor tweaks here and there to the legislation that we have proposed. One such inclusion is the question of anti-doping. It was never there before, so we had to do that. We went to Jamaica sometime earlier on this year and was able to get a great deal of information as to how we can incorporate that. And we are satisfied that sufficient work has been done so far. There is a small committee at the ministry level to be able to finalize the inputs of that, and it is going well. And so once all of that is completed, we are satisfied that we should get it in time for the end of this year.
Tell me, how important is that sports policy for Grenada?
Very important, because you see athletes like Anderson, Lyndon, Kirani, it will help guide how we, from birth to when they go on to the international scene, how we treat with them, and what we need to do to continue turning out more Kiranis, more Andersons, more Lindons, etc. And so that policy is by and large a critical part. Take Jamaica, for example. Without their policy on sports and how they go about developing sports, from facilities, etc., to the athletes themselves, there would be no Usain Bolts in terms of the programs, etc. So we recently had a local athlete who completed her 2-year program at Jamaica. She only recently came back to the ministry, and her response is that it was excellent. It made her a lot more bolder. So, which meant that, the empowerment of athletes, this is why you need a policy to guide that, and you can't just operate vice versa. The empowerment of athletes, and we're not just talking about when an athlete achieves a successful feat, but to understand how we need to treat with them in their developmental stage so that they can go on to achieve great things, whether it is Carifta, Olympics, etc., reaching the highest pinnacle that they can in their career. So what we want to do and what this policy will seek to do is to put all of that into perspective and to lay the foundations for grassroots development, community development, school development, and national and international.
So I'm assuming 2024 we hopefully see a rollout of the policy.
Yes, and it will have to be enforced for 2024. As you would be aware, we are going to be hosting Carifta.
Yes.
Yeah. So we will have to do that. So all systems are a go. We are somewhat just off schedule by maybe a month or two, but generally give or take, we did factor that in, and so we have some space that we can work with.
All right. Tell me, what's the latest in the facilities, such as the track at the stadium and so forth? That's been some talk going around.
Yeah.
What's the latest on that?
Right. So the latest is that we have already prepared all the received all the scope of works for the relaying of tracks. We have been in contact with the Athletics Association. The Ministry of Works is the lead implementer in conjunction certainly with the Stadium Authority, and all systems are a go. I don't have a specific update this morning to say yea or nay, or let's say tomorrow or next week, but all systems are a go.
All right. Yeah. Well, certainly we hope that will be taken care of, because we want to have the games and so forth. We want to be looking, for the rest of the Caribbean. Tip top. I would agree with that. I want to switch our conversation now to Carnival, which is just wrapped up. Carnival 2023, and it's over now. Yeah. As Minister, how would you rate Grenada's Carnival? Between 1 and 10, how would you rate Grenada's Carnival 2023?
Well, I would give it about an 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah, on scale. Give or take, and I'm speaking from having inside knowledge, not just looking at the outside. On the outside, it is a 9 certainly in most people's book, but sitting within there was still some room for improvement. I must say hats off to Spice Mass Corporation, and let me say this, that Spice Mass Corporation board came together essentially about 2-3 months before Carnival, and even before June, and for them to have to prepare, and these are people who are new to board of directors or being on a board, and for them to have to go through the rigors and pull through and make this Carnival successful, it didn't happen just by that. I think it was a combination of a number of factors, including the collaboration, for example, with key stakeholders like GTA, the government of Grenada, of course, RGPF, a number of entities that we have to commend and congratulate, in addition to Spice Mass Corporation. But Spice Mass Corporation and their leadership essentially did what they had to do, and as I said, there is still room for great improvement, which is what we are hopeful that we can discuss. The postmortem has already been planned with myself and the board sometime later on this month, and we expect to have cordial discussions as to how we take it in the future. SMC is expected to do a little stakeholder engagement as we plan for 2024. Remember, it's the 50th, so we are looking forward to great things and the general improvement of the quality of the product that we advertise when Carnival comes.
I asked you this question, and it should not flow in this particular way when I asked you the rating. I wanted to be specific more to the events, especially the Calypso finals, the Soca, Monarch, the Groovy, the True, the Monday Night Mass, Pretty Mass, all of that. In terms of the rating of it this year, I mean, even the visitor experience, people come to Grenada, the economic boost, etc.
Yes.
How do you still rate that?
No, it went well. It went well. I think numbers so far out of GTA, preliminary numbers, suggest that it was extremely high, coming from the northern side of America. Hopefully next year we can be able to get Grenadians from all over the world coming in, because it's an independence year and they would want to pay homage to the 50th, and so they may come to enjoy the carnival. But by and large, from the numbers of the visitors, it went well. In terms of the activities, so for Soca Monarch, for example, and Calypso Finals, they were both in the high end of what the numbers would ordinarily be on any given carnival month or week. So we were able to do some of that. So we see some general success there. As I said, that the postmortem is scheduled for later on this month, so we would have more definitive numbers as they roll in. But I can tell you by and large, ticket sales for the majority of the events went well. One of the things that we have to discuss going forward is the apparent incorporation of private shows during the carnival festive season. My own feeling, which is not going to be imposed, but is that we should endeavor not to clash national events, and that should be a standard, because it's our carnival celebration. But at the same time, giving rise to the dynamic situation that is before us, where we have promoters locally and in collaboration with some abroad, wanting to do shows throughout the period to help add to what the product is about. We have to be accommodative, and I am aware that some of that accommodation was exhibited certainly in this carnival. So how we treat with that going forward is going to be primary discussion, and but so far we are satisfied that there was a cordial environment. There was no fighting in terms of at the leadership level. Carnival is always bacchanal, you can't remove some of it, but at the leadership level, to which we are required to manage the product, it was very adamant that we should not have that kind of behavior.
All right, I'm agreeing with you with that also. Now tell me, things to improve, things to change.
Yeah.
You know, moving forward, what you saw in 2023 that you thought, well, you know, these things could have been improved on.
Yeah.
Knowing that what we had already, of course, you understand, you did mention, you know, the corporation had you know, a late, just only came in, you understand, but I'm assuming individual who came in, they had some experience some way or the other, so they know what they were getting into.
Definitely.
You understand?
Definitely.
You know, things to change. You know, we've seen this, we've been seeing that over the years, you know, it didn't working, it probably to work, but maybe it could be improved on.
Correct.
You know, tell me.
All right. So from a logistics standpoint, we have to improve that in terms of start time, in terms of the duration of shows, etc. That was very apparent as a drawback or gray area that we have to improve upon. Meaning that the coordination and management of the various events has to be a bit more tighter and a bit more organized. So those were some of the glaring concerns and criticisms. Again, in terms of the start date, time, for certain events, we have to look at it. Again, it requires the engagement with stakeholders in a serious and open way, not in a piecemeal way to say that SMC is just going to do X or Y, but SMC must have a rationale for what it is doing, and the people themselves who are the stakeholders making up the event must also have a counter rationale, if they so please, as to why it should be done this way. So, for example, the start time for Juve, whether or not we want to bring it earlier, would that pose a problem for the RGPF to be able to monitor in the dark of the night, that kind of thing? So you have to take all of these things into consideration, and then I would say that we come out with the best product at the end of the day.
I agree. I understand, because, you know, Juve seems to be becoming a problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's becoming a problem in my own opinion, as from a spectator point of view. It has come up to be where it's just a major jump up that we've seen, and the disorganization of it over the years, and they continue to of course, leave it, you know, just go down the drain. And I certainly would like to see go back to. I know they always say you can't go back, you know this stuff, but you could always put it in a way that you know the spectacle of Juve could return for some reason or the other.
Right, because you always need to take what works and improve on the areas that don't. So in terms of Juve, yes, that conversation is being had, both from Spice Masses end and then even from government. So we have looked at it as well. There might be need maybe to choreograph or even plan the Juve itself as an actual event. So in building up to that, there was once the experience of Jambalasi. So maybe you could have a Jab Jab village or some kind of creativity somewhere set up along the route so that the Jab themselves can walk towards something. Should we be going to the route of judging Jab Jab? There were times you had UFO, you had other Juve bands that would come on scene and were big. We no longer have that. Blue Devils, we no longer have those. So how do we get them back involved and also recreate the event into the spectacle it used to be? Because if you just leave it, what is going to happen is that it is going to have more and more foreign influence, and it will go down a particular way. Yes. Now, the jump up is now becoming a common practice. Everybody just going and jump Juve, right? So, so unfortunately, you can't just change that overnight. So this is why I'm saying that the discussions will commence now, and we may have to gradually, over a period, 2-3 years, put systems in place and change it and choreograph and produce Juve.
You said we can't allow it to just, we can't change it, but I'm saying you can't still allow it to deteriorate.
Correct.
You still cannot allow it to deteriorate. This question I want to ask, I mean, maybe Spice Mass Corporation should be here. Maybe we could ask them to that, but I think you probably have a little knowledge enough to ask. What plans does the Spice Mass Corporation, being the Ministry of Culture and so forth, have for bands that transverse the carnage, and they'll be selling booths there and stuff like that? What plans do we think for 2024 moving forward to fix that problem? It's becoming a problem when you see bands and all these booths all along. We understand folks want to capitalize on the monetary part of it, the sales and so forth. But I think something needs to be done about that in terms of it's becoming a nuisance to a point. I'm assuming as Minister you saw it yourself.
Yeah, correct. So Spice Mass is aware of the situation. As I said, defense, well, not so much defense, but the board was relatively new, so having coming in, they did try to make some alterations which they thought would enhance and help the situation. But as with the trial and error in this instance, it didn't really turn out the best. But the issue is not to say that Spice Mass is attempting to ignore the vendors and is deliberately doing that. This is just how the events flowed. What happened is that either through exhaustion or what, the majority of the crowd did not finish routes. So you had a situation in which the stop-off generally was around Tropicana, right? Generally on Port Highway. People didn't go beyond that very much. So then you had that challenge. What we need to do is to decide whether we bring up the route somewhat to compensate for a further tagging along, so that when we place vendors or give authorization for vending in locations on the carnage, etc., they can actually capitalize on people coming in and purchasing the product. The other problem that we have is that even if bands come in, the ability now for the same patrons to walk back through the vending areas and booths is where the challenge is. Most people, when they reach a particular point, they went separate ways. So the direction in which the crowd is going to. So either we need to look at how we centralize traffic into the area so that people could purchase things before they go, they can still purchase things after they leave, etc. But it's going to take some coordination and discussions. What I would say to the vendors themselves is that they must be open to a discussion on it so that we could fix whatever issue that exists there. But I can tell you it's not a case where SMC doesn't like vendors and all these kind of that's not the case. Right? Unfortunately,
the perception will build. You've seen it like if individuals have a right to have their own perception or thoughts towards things. You understand?
But essentially, I can make the statement on behalf of SMC, and they can certainly defend themselves that it was not intentional.
All right. Let's still keep it on the conversation of Carnival. We drew for a break, but let's just ask another question or two before we take that break. Can you at the moment? or to tell us something about the plans for steel band in Grenada right now. What does the Ministry of Culture, Spice Mills Corporation, what the plans for steel band in Grenada?
Right. So we've recently negotiated the MOU with the PAN Association. It will help to bolster PAN nationally. I wouldn't want to preempt it just yet. What I would say is that it entails, for example, the actual collaboration and the actual proposal to introduce PAN officially in schools, right? So whether it is going to be as a side thing or it may form part of the music curriculum, that is something that we would look at, but it will have the introduction of PAN actually officially in schools in collaboration with the PAN Association. The other thing is the organization of PANs. There are a number of PAN bands that are not sponsored, and therefore it is always limited for them to give out, but they may actually have some numbers which the PAN Association must be able to take control of. So we are working with them. That's the PAN Association. We did it prior to Carnival, and we will continue subsequently. We're just waiting to cross all T's, dot all I's with this, and then take it from there. But it is mutually agreed upon in this initial stage for both parties, government and the PAN Association, on the way forward.
That'll be so, because sometimes we don't want to see PAN, in Grenada, even though there was a really, really good turnout in 2023 in terms of from the junior and the seniors. It was really good, but I continue to see it not being focused on a lot as I think it should over the years. It's like just the same old situation all the time.
That's correct.
And I would just love to see it go on more. I have been a keen interest in steel PAN myself. Yes. I have another technical subject I want to get onto. The last time you were here, I spoke to you about the Queen Show.
Yes.
And then you did make a statement, and we had you were called a liar by Miss Jenny Simon for your utterance on the program. And the last time you were regarding the Queen Show, the battle, and so on. What's the story there, man? Let's see if we could clear the air on that. She actually called you a liar on her program. I listened to it and I said, well, I'm not sure what you were lying about. Right. But if you could clear the air and on that issue there once and for all, let's know what's
there's absolutely no air to clear, because it's a simple case where someone felt either disrespected by me requesting a simple breakdown of what was going to happen, and indicating that the board has to be aware of who, what, your budget, etc. It's simple as that. So there's no clearing of any air there. This is standard. As minister, one of the things that we had to do during the carnival season, which, because the board was new and there was no information just floating around at SMC, we wanted to get the individual budgets of all of the events so that we could plan properly for it, so that we don't need to rely only on subvention, or when NLA gives some resources to SMC to begin to have these events, we can have them, because we want to look at multiplying the number of SMC events that we have throughout the year, not just around August. So, as minister, I have all right and authority to speak to a board member. But that aside, to your particular question, which I would not engage in because she didn't directly say it to me, I have the utmost love and respect for Ms. Jenny Simon. Whatever her views is on any particular event, it's just her view. All right. So I could say that from an official standpoint, there was no disrespectful letter. Again, nobody can prove any disrespect or any partisan thing. All these things were just rumors, and I would encourage us to focus on the substance, which is, where do we see Queen Show or pageantry going? Whether or not we should be talking about building out a Queen Show association. Presently, there is no one on Spice Mass as the board who represents the single interest of pageantry throughout the country. So should we be talking about building out a national executive for that? And what would that look like? So that when queens are chosen for the different parishes, they come through an actual exercise of open contest
Yes.
at the parish level, and then they form the national. So these are some of the questions I think we need to be talking about, and not about an email which is fabricated. Yeah.
Well, that certainly clears it up. So we move on. We move on. I have another question. We do for a break, but I just want to get these questions coming. My question next is to refer to cultural ambassadors.
Yeah.
You know, Minister, you recently made a post about appointments of cultural ambassador. Can you bring some clarity to what what being proposed?
Right.
And like you said, the criteria has been set for these appointments. How are these? How are the others selected before?
Right.
How would the others be selected before, especially when it comes to cultural ambassadors?
Right. Well, first off, let me just say that we are reviewing. So I want to be clear on how I responded, but there are drafts. The public has to be engaged, etc. In the past, I can tell you that it was largely a cabinet decision. So there are no clear policy guidelines and directives to choosing a cultural ambassador. In addition to that, oftentimes individuals always either promise something. So there was no clear indication to say, if John Smith and you have X, Y, Z titles, or you are part of this industry, or you're part of that, this is your...
So you're popular.
Right, yeah. So we're trying to fix that. We are not complete as yet, so I wouldn't want to preempt anything too much, because it will get a lot of people riled up, which I saw that it did, and people start asking for all kind of crazy things. So we have to manage that. But again, it speaks to how we see culture. Take, for example, Jamaica. When you look at Jamaica, you don't hear the conversation about cultural ambassadors, but I'm certain that the various individuals who contribute greatly to their culture, they have the necessary framework, and there is a policy from the government as to how they treat with them, what happens to them. That's why in Jamaica you can become somewhat bigger than that, say, of an artist in Grenada. It takes a little while longer, and until you go out there. So even by the time you get there, should the state not be assisting in developing your own skill and craft to make you into a better artist in some way, not in a direct way with the money, etc., but from a holistic standpoint, right? Ensuring that you have access to a studio. As a young artist, maybe you don't have the resources, but you are very creative, you have talent, you have some ability. So how do we explore that and expand it? That's what we need to be discussing. So it is going to be along those lines, and again, the question of who, because we have a situation in the country where Cultural Foundation is actually supposed to be the one building out that and helping in the developmental stage. In my view, doing the workshops, voice training, that sort of thing. And Spice Mass Corporation, based on its law, is supposed to be promoting. So because our premium culture is carnival, so soca, calypso, those kinds of things, that predominantly are our major features. But culture is not only about carnival in Grenada.
I agree.
Carnival is seasonal. Culture encompasses other aspects. So, from the traditional side, what do we need to do to recreate the interest among those areas? Dust off the books. This is why it's critical to introduce Grenadian history, because it will give us a synopsis as to what we used to do and what actually worked for us, or what we have and we don't know, which might be gold, and to take it and give it some prominence. So the collaboration, and this year I am pleased that Cultural Foundation and SMC in particular collaborated on the traditional mass aspect, and I anticipate greater collaboration of that sort, again, which will help to feed into the whole question and conversation around cultural ambassadors, who these people are, how we identify them, what they are going to be equipped with. And then, so that's one aspect. You have to look at it from the creative side as well. So the Ministry of Creative Industry is going to look at some draft mechanisms as well. It's in its draft stage, and all these things will be published. So I wouldn't want to preempt anything, but I would say that cultural ambassadors, the future of that it looks good, and we're having the conversation. At least we're aware that there is a problem, a deficit, and we want to fix it.
Okay, great. Mr. Ron, we need to take a break. Let's take that break and we're coming right back. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point for today, Wednesday the 23rd of August. We're coming right back. Stay with us.
Yes, this is your ocean. If I am to protect your future, we have to work together. It's the time to work together. If I am to help protect your future. Once I used to be so pure and clean, and those hills were so fresh and green. But now you see me as your dumping ground. Current situations have me choking on your pollution. Think hard about it. You will agree that really there is no you without me. Make the zero waste pledge, be responsible. Reduce your waste, recycle where possible. It's down to you, so make the commitment. Recycle for blue oceans and our betterment.
Recycle OECS. Green actions, blue oceans.
For blue oceans and our betterment.
Do you have an idea for a training program that can lead to the development of economic activity in your community? Then call the National Training Agency. The NTA will help you identify trainers and will also assist you to develop and implement training programs. So whether it's community tourism, straw craft production, small engine repairs, agri-food processing, agriculture, or any other vocational or creative industry skill, call the National Training Agency to help you implement your community-based training. Call 435-9092-9093. Training Agency. Enhancing the employability of Grenada's workforce. TVET is the future of the nation. That's technical and vocational education and training that helps you to acquire knowledge, positive attitude and skills, and CVQ certification in traditional and non-traditional job areas such as printing and graphic arts, musical performance, massage therapy, agri-food processing, fish handling and processing, live sound engineering, events management, geriatric care, and several other exciting occupational areas. TVET prepares you for work in Grenada, the CARICOM region, and beyond. Call the National Training Agency for more information. Phone 435-9092-9093. National Training Agency. Enhancing the employability of Grenada's workforce.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point for today, Wednesday, the 23rd of August. And with me this morning, the MP, Ron Redhead, with me this morning. Let me say good morning to you once again and welcome back. Continue with our conversation this morning. I want to speak about this. It's been something that's we've been hearing the circulation of it. I want to know the whole gist of it from you being a minister, a member of cabinet. There is an issue very topical. I would like you to weigh in on it. It referenced the proposed, the prospect of LGBT issue that's being part of school curriculum. We hear it was on the news here on GBN. We have reports on the issues that it's not being able to get any response. Folks are not able to get any response, especially from a governmental part of it. You understand? We were not getting any response from it. What is the talk, or due to what is the talk that is taking place? Mm-hmm. The president of the Grenada Union of Teachers has said that there are teachers who were informed by the ministry, of education about that. Is there any? Tell us what is taking place, Mr. Minister. Tell me.
Right. So I can
as a candidate minister, right. What is your say on this?
I cannot speak for the Minister of Education at this particular time, but I would say this: as a cabinet colleague, there is absolutely no proposal to change. There is absolutely no change of the curriculum, nor to introduce any law. From where I sit at the lower house, the opposition sits there as well. So if any legislation has to be proposed, they will see it, because we have already put out the schedule of legislations that we intend to change. They have the dates of the various sittings. So there is no proposal where that is concerned. Nothing is changed, and I would encourage parents and teachers, maybe even the media, to go to school when it opens in September and sit in a classroom and hear what is being introduced. And I can guarantee that you're not going to hear that, because there is no proposal. In fact, I don't know where that came from, because I wasn't in the workshop that is being spoken about. That's the most I will say on it.
All right. Well, I guess that from that point of view, that clears up. Let's we've been here now. Let's continue on the issue of schools in terms of school vouchers. We've been hearing some of the concerns from parents regarding, the uniform voucher. Is there any updates on that issue? For your constituency office, is this being flooded with questions and requests? Tell us about that in terms of the school vouchers issue.
Yeah, well, the program is occurring. It happens through the school system. There was an occasion for just prior to the carnival for parents who were interested to sign up and so on. That time had passed. I do not know if it has been communicated to the public as yet from the Ministry of Education, whether or not the deadline is over. But it was open, the usual voucher system, it's there and it's happening. Right. Free school book program is there, the tablet is there.
All right. Let's continue on this trend. Minister, tell us about the Imani program. Give us an update on the Imani program.
Right.
I mean, how many people are there now in the program? From the latest count, how is the transition process? You of course have mentioned before in terms of how that's going. The NTA, are they fully equipped staff and ready to assume the responsibility for the Imani? How many people are under the program, and have they been had since you're taking on the mantle as minister? Could you speak on that?
So the amount of people on the program has been reducing, partly because we have been ensuring that we ratchet up the transition process, which is to get the young people into permanent jobs. And permanent jobs will have to be defined through, in some instances, contract. So, for example, the Ministry of Karaku Piti Matnik, no, the count stands maybe around 12, give or take. I could be wrong, stand to be corrected, give or take. 12 of the Imani trainees have now been given contracts with the ministry itself and taken off the program. So they no longer receive the stipend, but they receive an actual salary now being paid through the Ministry of Karaku Piti Matnik. Right. So that's as much as where we are at. In terms of the overall count, I would not have the exact figure, but it has certainly reduced from what it started, which was just around 3,000 or just over 3,000. To say in terms of the NTA, that process is going well. In fact, NTA already prepared the terms of reference to get the professional person who would be the lead on this. We are anticipating a presentation to the Cabinet of Grenada by NTA soon on how it would look and roll out for the remainder of this year. So all systems are a go in terms of that. Give or take, we're about behind maybe about a month in terms of the schedule that we had originally proposed in terms of when we wanted to roll this out. But all in all, the transition is going well. But it speaks to the direction that the country is going, which is that TVET, skills training, incorporating that into the curriculum is going to replace the need for things like Imani, quote unquote. Right. In other words, the school system must be well equipped to identify those students who may not be that academically inclined and treat with them at a lower level rather than waiting until they go out in society, become vulnerable, and then have to come up with these remedial programs which are by and large transactional and on a safety net basis and does not really get them into direction at that stage where they need. So we want to arrest that situation earlier, and so that the demand for programs like these will lessen because you're already making the accommodation at the lower level. So that is what this whole introduction of TVET is going to help solve at the school system at the level there. Give or take, there might be people who would fall off the system, so you have to compensate for that. And the mechanism is already there. Various programs are going to be had. We are going to maintain the concept of programs like Empower, because we will be changing up some names, etc., of the programs, and to kind of engineer a new type of thinking and new energy around the youth programs. I can tell you that we've introduced a summer school. We trained about 600 students over the holidays. I don't have the exact tally, but a good many of them were at the youth center. They presented their craft, etc., what they did. We have been successful in piloting a job preparedness workshop, again in collaboration with stakeholders like NTA and other entities. We have been able to successfully negotiate a draft with GDB to change the component of the Empower away from the ministry. Presently, we had a situation where the ministry did not have the capacity to be issuing loans, not even managing it. So the performance, for example, of Youth Biz was so dismal, not because the trainees themselves didn't take advantage of it, but because we did not have the right structure and mechanism in place to manage the loan portfolio of young entrepreneurs. So putting that component over to GDB is what is going to make it a lot more successful. So all of these things are happening behind the scenes. We are not in a position to officially announce all of it, but just to talk and to say things are happening, even though you're not hearing about it, because it's not about noise. At the end of the day, it's results, and to be able to arrest, for example, the elements of violence among our young people. We do have a program at the Ministry of Youth that is being worked on, and they have completed the initial stages. I should get an update sometime today on it, and we are doing what we have to do. Again, we have the wiry that is running simultaneously, USAID in collaboration with the various ministries, that is going successful, and we can continue to report some success and strong success in the area of revamping and reorganizing what we should actually be doing. The ministry must focus on policy, and we must get some specialized positions. So we are currently in the phase of looking at new applicants to join the ministry to help lead the transformation that we seek.
All right. You spoke on some of the things that I'm about to ask you in terms of of other youth programs. You spoke a lot of it, especially the Project Fly. You spoke of the Youth Biz program, you spoke, of course, the Empower program, and you spoke on that for young men, so there's probably no need for me to go into that. But what I would like to ask, what new initiative can we look forward to for the remainder of 2023 and going into 24 under the Ministry of Youth?
Yeah, well, definitely to be able to upgrade the youth policy so that it can guide one, the enforcement, and two, we are going to reintroduce, hopefully we get to prepare the draft legislation soon, before the year end, the school councils, student councils, that kind of setup and model. We're going to reintroduce that. Again, the nature in which it will take, we will have to have the consultations and public engagement on it, but we believe that the activity of the young people, if it is coordinated, because sports is one aspect, it takes care of itself, and there are a group of young people who already are interested in that. Then you have the culture, PAN, and different elements. But then from an organized standpoint of all the young people who may not be interested in sports or the extracurricular activities, but may want to do something, let's say in terms of debates, etc., in a structured way, in a professional way, and we want to engineer a new young woman, a new young man, in terms of their thinking, so that they are not easily swayed by all kind of influences and so on. Social media plays a very big part. So we need to insulate the minds of our young people through these structured and organized programs like student councils, like youth councils. And so we're going to be bringing and reintroducing this. Our manifesto speaks to that. We've already prepared the draft policy, youth policy, and we have to ensure that we have the funding to make sure that we can implement that. But again, that will be another stakeholder engagement. So all these activities are going on without all the fanfare and so on, because what we want to build is not something just for hype, but for the future.
All right, understandably so. Now, Minister, with 2/3 of 2023 over, how would you rate the implementation of your objectives stated in the 2023 budget? You know, as you said, 2/3 already gone.
Yeah.
You know, how would you rate the implementation of your objectives?
No, it's 70%.
70%.
Yeah. So we're well on track to at least end the year in terms of 100% implementing what we promised the nation. So, for example, my ministry talked about the cricket program. We were able to successfully launch that. We talked about the national policy on sports. We were able to successfully complete that. And as I said, it's in its formative stages. It's just some minor details that we're trying to get out of the way. And then there was one other aspect I don't recall, the transition of the Imani program. So that will take up a bulk of it, that 30% overall, which we still have some work to do to get it to where we need to be. So, for example, once NTA completes its presentation to the cabinet, that now will be able to empower them to draw down on the resources to get the person to be able to upskill and take the program fully, get the staff, etc., etc. So we just wanted to ensure that everything was in place first, that NTA itself had the capacity, they know what is going to happen, that the ministry was able to provide sufficient information, that when it is transferred, does not leave them handicapped in terms of what they need to do. So by and large, the ministry is on track with what we promised, and not just promised, what was presented in the budget and what is actually happening. We're on track. In addition, I didn't count Windward Island games, all these other quote-unquote distractions.
I guess that would add up to that 70%, you know, and I mean, if we say it is positively on track for some reason in terms of the implementation rate. I have one question before we start entertaining phone calls, and I've been hearing this talk around, you know, that I've heard that there are $7 million investment for government for independence celebration. Some people are very concerned about such a large amount of money being used for what can be considered a kind of frivolous, you know, pursuit. What is that money, or should I say, what is that money which can be hearing only in 2023? What is that going to be used for in terms of the independence celebration? Do we need to use $7 million for that? I mean, I've been hearing that. I would like to get a little.
I would neither confirm nor deny. I would say wait until we pass the appropriation bill. We're going to hear the rationale for it, and I can tell you, in every respect, the people who may be putting that negativity out there is simply trying to prevent the celebration or the build-up to the celebration of being successful. Because they know if that happens, people would not be swayed by the old talk of the country is in tatters and we are struggling, etc., etc. And the point is, who is to say that we cannot celebrate Grenadianism the right way? Why are we not? So is it that people are so going through so much difficulty that we cannot celebrate our independence? I mean, you know, I would not respond to it. Only to say that soon we have the appropriation budget that will be laid before Parliament, and the public will be able to hear the debate on it.
All right. But we await that. I guess the folks are concerned with the figure. You know, I mean, just sending it. Yes, it's going to be 50 years. It's a significant number that we have gotten to. We
were concerned with the figure for the purchase of Grenadier.
Understandably so. 4352041 to our listeners and viewers out there. If you do have a question or two that you would like to contribute to the program this morning or ask the minister, feel free to do so in this segment. As I take a peek at some of the question that is before me, let me take go to the phone line first, because I'm seeing there are a number of questions coming via the WhatsApp. Let's go to the phone line. Caller, good morning, welcome. Caller, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to you. Go right ahead, please.
Yeah, I just want to ask the Minister of Culture if there's any plans to incorporate aspects of culture into the school's curriculum, because I think that's an area where young people can foster the talent, right, other than the academic side of things. So I just want to find out if there are any plans to incorporate aspects of culture into the school curriculum.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
Yeah, excellent question, caller. Yes, there are plans for that. We have since received several proposals, including from non-Grenadians, as to how we could go about doing that, what are the aspects we can introduce, and how we can teach that to our students.
All right. Our next caller. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Yeah, GT.
Good morning.
Diablo told you to ask him that question, huh? About the $7 million? It got to be him.
I'm not sure what the caller is talking about, but so be it. Anyway, so be it. So be it. Anyway, 4352041. Let's go back to the phone line. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. I have one question and a comment. The question has to do with Carnival. I think some thought must be given to the issue with the fancy mask. It seemed to have lost its spiciness or its spice relevance. So some accommodation has to be made between the traditional mask, meaning fancy mask bands, and the non-competing mask bands. It's not a good spice look to pick costumes that are strings from a catalog. That being said, that is for the SMC and the government to figure out. Secondly, it's a non-carnival question. I've seen online the artistic concept of the cultural center in Simoon. Has any thought been given to consulting stakeholders, those in theater and those in dance, especially because of the specialized nature of the performing space that they have to use? Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller. Very, very interesting question. So I would say for the first one, yes, this is a concern that is raised and is plaguing us, whether or not competing bands versus non-competing bands should even be an issue. We have discussed with the stakeholders before build up to Carnival. We have seen a pilot by one band to do costume making, wire bending, etc. Hopefully it goes beyond just a private initiative and it becomes a national concept to be teaching that. If we are doing that here locally, it then eliminates the need or dependence on foreign imports for making costumes. On the second question, with the Simoon Cultural Center, yes, people have been engaged, not in a widespread way, but what we did was to get the specifications for doing over the redesigns. So when we came in, it was just bland. We added this by redesigning what would be required based on standard, and we included a theater, etc., a very small one, about 150 sitting capacity, etc. So the public will be informed. There is a management committee at the level of the ministry, and stakeholder meetings would be planned and people would be engaged.
All right. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Telesford, and good morning to you, Brother Ron. Brother Ron, I've followed you in the Senate. I've followed you in the upper house, in the lower house, on the campaign trail, and now you're minister. Congratulations. You're a very hard worker. You're dedicated, and I know you would make it. And I just want to say, continue to do what you do. And to all of those who, have, whatever negative comments, let us be our neighbor's keeper. Let us support each other. And I especially like the way you handle the question of what has been said by, Simon says, you're a gentleman. God bless you. Have a great day, son.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution to this morning. 435-2041. We have approximately 5 minutes left on today's program. Let's go back to the phone line. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing? Good morning to the minister. I want to know when that light in the River Sally past there is going to be fixed. It's almost 6 months now since the light been off. The community cannot use it the past year after hours. So we really like to know when that light would be fixed. Have a nice day, brother.
Thank you, caller. Thank you.
I think he mentioned River Sally.
River Sally, the pasture of some River Sally. The lighting problem.
All right, well, I'm not aware of the situation, but we can certainly investigate it at the level of ministry.
All right, let's go back to the phone line. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, GT, and good morning to our minister. I have about 3 questions. One, what is being done for the National Stadium in respect to the lighting? I mean, there is CPL. I mean, we can't even get matches or whatever. I mean, I know if we have lighting, we will be able to get part of the cake that is being done across the Caribbean. 2, with respect to Carnival. I have a serious problem about the Carnival when it comes to, growing up, I know Carnival, we're talking Carnival is Pan, Queen Show, the Calypso competitions, and all of that. But the problem I have is with this white. Why is it that we have in this white? White thing is not a carnival thing. I mean, these things shouldn't be on the carnival weekend and conflicting with national events. I think we need some clarification on that. I feel very disturbed about it. They can have the white shows, yes, but why does it have to be conflicting with a national event and on the carnival weekend? Sunday night, everybody knows is Calypso competition and Interjuve. Why is it white and Interjuve? I just need some clarification on why is it changed and, what can be done to make it be what we used to. Growing up, that is what I know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you. Maybe your final caller this morning. Minister, you want to respond and then we get some closing comments?
All right. So just quickly on the issue of the lighting of the stadium, one of the reasons why it cannot be lit is because we have to do the renovations through the kind assistance of the People's Republic of China. And for that to be done, we certainly cannot do anything because they will have to remove things, etc. The other part is we do not even have the infrastructure there to accommodate the lighting. So we need to make sure that that is going to be available to get that done. But it is something on the government's horizon, and until we complete that, we would be in a position to light. Hopefully next year we could be talking CPL. Your other question in relation to the white shows, yes, it's a conversation that we're having. It is something that we would require more public consultation on, and we can make the decision. SMC has the power to prevent, but you would want to create an atmosphere where everyone can benefit and we can bring more people to our cultural events. So I guess that was a rational use. It's something we inherited, but it's something definitely we are committed to working with all stakeholders to fix.
All right. Minister, any closing comments before we take a wrap?
So school will be reopening. We just want to encourage parents to continue supporting their children, work with them. Government has introduced free tuition up the way to New Low and TAMCC level, tertiary level. So we would like for parents to capitalize on that, students themselves to capitalize on that and work extremely hard, not just for yourself, but for your country.
All right. Minister, I want to thank you for being on the program this morning. Of course, interesting conversation as always. Always a pleasure having a conversation with you. And certainly hope we can do it again. You came back quicker than I expected anyway.
Because it was kind of
Thanks once again, all who contributed to today's program. Thank you so much. You viewed, you listened. Thanks so much. Those of you who called in, thanks so much. I know there were lots of folks calling, but I couldn't be able to get everybody in this morning. Until another edition of To The Point, folks, have yourself a great day and goodbye. Thanks once again.